will define hatred itself, which is a bit problematic. It is an element of the crime. We saw this a while ago with regards to the terrorism bill as well. It's an element, but it's not defined very specific. So what can be seen as hatred, if it's not defined as such? Can anything that is viewed thrown under the name of hatred, or is it not specifically define what is meant by hatred in this bill? I do find it very problematic and clearly defined. Those questions for now, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable
Chair. So I'm not going to put my camera on. Am I audible? Last question, because that's the question I have, is specifically when we talk about hate speech, where is the line going to be defined? Hate between those two. And in terms of freedom of speech, offensive language does form part of freedom of speech. But where does that line end in terms of this bill? If I can get some clarity in terms of where does it, because it is not defined, as the Honourable Michalaka said, but where does that line end? Because we are moving into very, very dangerous territory if we don't define that line very clearly, where it can then curb freedom of speech, and which is defined within the Constitution. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you very much, Honourable Smith. Is there any other honourable member? Okay, I'm not seeing any other hand. Perhaps let me just raise a few issues which are more specific to the bill. In terms of the definitions, clause 1, the bill contains a number of definitions, but chief of which is the 16 characteristics of a person targeted by hate speech and hate crimes, as well as the 10 grounds upon which the freedom of expression can be limited. However, there are 6 characteristics that have been omitted under the grounds, which are age, occupation of trade, political affiliation or conviction, culture, disability and language. And maybe if you could just explain the rationale for the omission from the definition of grounds. I think the other issue relates to clause 3, subclause 1 and the new subclause 3 to A, which now provides that hate crime is an underlying offense. The department, if you could please explain how this provision would be implemented in practice, because it would appear that the hate crime is an underlying offense, but not hate speech. There's clause 4 as well, in terms of offense of hate speech, where clause 4 does not make reference to sentences in terms of section 6 subclause 1, that a conviction for the offense of hate speech could attract, unlike clause 3, because I think clause 4 does not also contain a provision that the criminal records of persons convicted of hate speech must reflect such offense, and why is that? Clause 5, the victim impact statements. I think in terms of clause 5, subclause 3, the contents of a victim impact statement are admissible as evidence unless the court on good cause has shown or decides otherwise. The proviso following unless in clause 5, subclause 3 seems out of place in this clause and requires clarity. And if you could please maybe clarify that. And also under clause 5, subclause 3, if you could explain under which circumstances the victim impact statement contents would not be admissible as evidence. And lastly, clause 6 on penalties and orders, clause 6, subclause 3, which now provides that any person who is convicted of an offense referred to in section 4 is liable to a fine or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 8 years, or to both a fine and such imprisonment. And perhaps how was the period of 8 years decided on? I think those are just some of the questions from my side. On Mikolakis, if I may ask, did you have any other questions you would want to raise now? Honorable, okay, can I take Mtetwa and then I'll come back to you. On Mikolakis? Honorable Mtetwa, please. Honorable Mtetwa?
No, thanks. Thank you, Chair. My is a simple question, Chair. Is that this hate speech, are they going to consider our own cultural language in this speech? Because sometimes you may say something in our African way, and then in terms of the other language, and then it becomes like a hate speech. How are we going to define that? Because there's a very thin line between these issues. I would like the Deputy Minister to respond on that, or the person dedicated by the Deputy Minister there to answer my question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mtetwa. Honorable Mikolakis, I didn't hear what you said earlier.
No, Chairperson, I just wanted to indicate that it's absolutely fine if Honorable Mtetwa goes first. He hasn't had a chance up to now. I really appreciate the second opportunity to ask. Chairperson, I just have one more question, and it is also a bit more of political of nature. Chairperson, the root cause of real hate crime is at this stage, it's a moral problem in society, and you cannot legislate morality. And I do not think that this bill will achieve that. What it will do at this stage is to limit the freedom of speech of people who do not commit actual hate crimes. And it would disencourage many people from actually speaking their minds as well. So the root cause of hate crimes are not being dealt with by this bill. And the reason why it isn't dealt with is because, as I said, you cannot legislate morality. So what I would like to ask from the department is how it thinks that the root cause is going to be addressed through this legislation. And if it cannot address the root cause through this legislation, why is this legislation before us? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mikolakis. Honorable Motsamai. Honorable Motsamai, your hand is up.
Yes, Chairperson, ne ke re ka hore rona re le batho ba bantsho re na le bo Msilankao, re na le bo Duma Makakula ka njalo. A ha motho a tlo sebedisa le setso sa rona mo tabeng ena ya hate speech, le tlo kgona go rarolla jwang, o le tla ipha nako ya gore le rute batho gore ba tlhaloganyo gore setso se sa rona sa batho ba bantsho re na le ho berekisa mafoko a mang a reng ga wa shebile be le ditshapa mare e le setso re gola ka sone le tlo e etsa yang gore batho ba understand ke a leboga che.
Thank you, Honorable Motsamai. I think our members will know that we don't necessarily have translation services on the platform. And okay. Yeah, Honorable Motsamai, I'm not sure anyone on the platform, if they or from the department understood that question. You can just give me an indication if you did.
But I think, point of
Yes,
order, Chair.
No, Honorable Motsamai?
Yes, Kerry, I think Setswana is an official language also. Somebody must be there to answer me in Setswana because I'm representing the mass of Botswana. We can't know one language. I mean, Setswana is part of one of our language.
That's not a point of order, really. All official languages are recognized. I think what I indicated was that we don't have translation services on the platform. What I was requesting from the department, if there's any member on the legal team that understood that question. If they did not, then I'm sure we'll then deal with the translation issue and the department will respond perhaps in the next meeting. Mr. Dupree, on your team, do you have anyone who would have understood the question?
Madam Chair, unfortunately not. My dad was fluent in Setswana, but he unfortunately never told or explained the language to me, so I apologize for that. Okay.
No, that's fine. Honorable Motsamai, you just bear with us. If your question doesn't get answered today, it will get answered. We'll note that question as well. Yeah. Let me then hand over to yourself, Mr. Dupree. Obviously, there are questions of a political nature that have arose from both, I think from Mikalakis, Honorable Mikalakis, Honorable Smith, and Honorable Mthethwa. But if you could just respond to what you can in terms of the specifics within the bill, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will start with the last question first. The whole issue of the moral problem. The bill is aimed at providing a equilibrium between free speech and of course when hate speech becomes involved. And I think when we go to the bill clause by clause, we will be able to explain it better to you. We've only presented the bill to you this morning, but it might be better to have a look at the content of the bill itself. With regard to the question that was raised with regard to clause 3, the implementation of hate crimes, the bill itself specifically mentions that if a person is convicted of a hate crime, then their criminal record must reflect the fact that they've been convicted of, for example, assault as a hate crime. With regard to hate speech, Madam Chair, you will note that the common law offence of, well, let me go back to clause 3. When you look at clause 3 itself, and it might be better when we go through the bill clause by clause, then it will become apparent. The concern that was raised in the committee is the portfolio committee is that the whole issue of double criminality, and that is why clause 3 explicitly excludes the common law offense of hate speech, and then of course the offense of the common law offense of hate, criminal injuria, and then of course the clause 4 provision which deals with hate speech. I must admit, Madam Chair, that is something that was not discussed in the portfolio committee, is whether a person's criminal record should also reflect hate speech, but it will. So there is no doubt about that, because it is a new offense being created in terms of the legislation. As far as sentencing is concerned, Madam Chair, that was also something that was discussed at length in the portfolio committee. If you look at the provisions of the bill as the bill was introduced, there were a differentiation being made between a first offender and a second offender, and the final decision was made to put a maximum of 8 years in the penalty provision. And of course, one would want to leave the discretion of sentencing to the courts and not necessarily the legislature to dictate that. Sorry, Madam Chair, I'm just looking at my notes here. Insofar as hate crimes are concerned, the aggravating circumstances, we have a very technical and intricate sentencing regime in South Africa. So where the Minimum Sentences Act does not apply, then the courts will be obliged to take the fact that a person has committed a crime on the basis of prejudice as an aggravating circumstance. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Mr. Dupree. Honorable Mtetwa, I see your hand is up again, and Honorable Motsamai, I don't know if it's a legacy hand or if you have raised it or you want to raise it.
No, Chair, I'm not yet well answered, especially on the African issues. As to how are they going to deal with that. Especially we've got songs, Chair, that are very historical to us. That means we might not want them to be demolished by this act. So these are the things, Chair, that we want to understand it as to how far it has to go. Because there's very thin lines. Others, when I sing my old songs, they might regard them as now this is a hate speech. Some of my revolutionary songs, we didn't choose to have those revolution songs. They were there before us. If things like this will find itself fall within this act, then it will be problematic. I just want to understand that.
Okay, I see Mr. Dupree. There's an echo. I see Mr. Dupree has raised his hand, but I see Mr. Smith. Maybe Mr. Smith before can come first before Mr. Dupree. Mr. Smith. Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Apologies.
Yes, can you hear me again? Sorry, I just want to make sure.
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue.
Okay, thank you so much. The Honorable Mtetwa actually triggered something in my mind as well. you know, in terms of ancient religious scriptures as well, you know, and in those scriptures there are things that might be offensive towards other religious groups. And again, it comes to where's that line drawn? Because you're going to create a massive problem within the religious community when you're going to start, you know, to regulate that they must remove certain scriptures within the ancient scripts because it is classified as hate speech. So that's another question that we should ask ourselves. And that's only one example. I think there's many other examples that can also be raised. And those are things. And it comes back to the principle that the Honorable Michalakis raised is in terms of morality. How do you legislate morality? You just can't. So it's really a concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Smith. Mr. Dupree?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I would like to possibly answer both questions at once. And that is to indicate to the committee that if you look at the bill itself, the Director of Public Prosecutions in the different provinces are empowered to decide whether a prosecution should be instituted or not. Now, when it comes to, for example, revolution songs, the bottom line would be there whether they are unlawful or not. So that is a question, a factual question that will be raised before a decision is made to institute a prosecution, as well as the whole issue of religious or old religious scriptures. When we get to the bill, Madam Chair, clause by clause, we will indicate to the committee that freedom of speech is very important, apart from all the other rights that are contained in the Bill of Rights. So I don't think that the whole issue of revolution songs or the whole issue of what is said in old religious scriptures should be a concern, because the bottom line is that it will be decided on the basis of lawfulness or unlawfulness, whether a prosecution should be instituted or not. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dupree, for the presentation and the responses. I thought today you would take us clause by clause, but you seem to be indicating that yeah, you're seeing it as another process. But be that as it may, honourable members, if you agree with me, Honourable Michalakis, I see your hand is up. Do you want to do a follow-up, or would you prefer that we get the Minister GM or the Minister present and take our discussions forward so they can address some of the other issues, unless you have a specific issue on the bill itself?
Chairperson, yes, I mean it would be important that we get the Minister or the Deputy Minister here to answer those outstanding questions. I don't want to belabor the point, but from what I understood, Mr. Dupree just said now, and forgive me if I understood him wrong, but in other words, as it currently stands, the discretion is left up to some prosecutor, whoever it is, to decide if the hate speech is serious enough to prosecute, and they have the discretion with regards to that. It's not clearly defined within boundaries in the bill at this stage. If that is the case, and I understood Mr. Dupree correctly, then, Chairperson, I do think that we need to, over the next coming weeks, discuss this very seriously, because I do find that a very serious problem. If the legislation just leaves it open to the discretion of the prosecuting authority, as if they have nothing better to do with their time at this stage, I do find that very, very problematic. And I would like, over the coming few weeks, for the department to put my mind at ease in that regard, if I understood Mr. De Beer correctly. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you, Honorable Mikulakis. Honorable Tamai, see your hand is up, or is it?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Ne ke re ka re go na le dipina tsa di slogan tsa rona the freedom fighters, like aga ne ke botsa ka pina thata gore ntwe sana le gore tobole ipuno e tsholo re ke pina e leng gore re gola ka yone ke slogan sa rona go tswa tlase ma freedom fighters a yone le tlo kgona go bontsha batho gore ya ka rena le dipina tse leng gore ke tsone tse ne re lwela toka batho ba rona ba tla itsisiwe yang gore ntho ena e right o high right maka obane rona re tseba e le pina tse le gore ne di binwa ke bontate rona bontate mogolo le tlo kgona go etsa yang ke ntho ne ke rata gore le one le ka fita ka yone mo nako e tlang.
No, thank you, Honorable Mutsuma. I think the issue you're raising is similar to also what Honorable Teto has said. But Honorable members, as I was indicating, that okay, there are some outstanding responses, but also responses that we would require from the executive. Can I, if you allow, can I propose that we leave our discussion for now on this bill, and we take it forward when the minister or deputy minister are part of our meeting, so that we can then get responses to all the issues that are raised, and then we can also take the discussions a lot more further. And I think the issues also raised by Honorable Matsumai, I think should also be addressed, will also be addressed as we move forward. If members are okay with that, I think then let me then thank Mr. Dupree, who represented the department in terms of the presentation on this bill, and we then can move on to our next agenda item. Thank you very much, Mr. Dupree. You're welcome to remain on the platform if you wish. However, we're then moving on to the next agenda item, which is the repeal of the Transkeian Penal Code Bill. On members, I just need to inform you that we did put the bill out for public comments. However, we did not receive any comments on the bill. I thought I would just open it up to yourselves. If in our previous meeting we did have an engagement on the bill, not many issues were actually raised by members, but if you had any specific issues that you would have wanted to raise today, we would give you an opportunity to do that. If not, then we would then perhaps look in a future meeting where we would then want to consider the report with regard to the bill. But we would also take further deliberation in the next meeting before we actually even adopt a report. On members, is there anyone who would want to raise anything around the repeal of the Transkeian Penal Code Bill? Honorable Samai, is this a legacy hand or okay? Okay. If not, honorable members, then perhaps in a future meeting we'll then take further deliberations from honorable members themselves and or consider the report of the committee. Honorable members will then move on to the. I can also release the legal team that's been dealing with the bill. Yeah, you're welcome to still continue to be part of this meeting, but if not, we'll want to move on to the third agenda item, which is the consideration and adoption of minutes. Gershwin, if you can also assist me on this one. I hope you're not having load shedding as well. Gershwin? Again, members, we have actually 5 sets of minutes that we want to deal with in this meeting. Yes, the first set of minutes, and I'm assuming that all members did receive these minutes, and they also had time to go through the minutes. I think all these minutes largely dealt with the detarable in terms of the briefings and in terms of our deliberations. On the first set of minutes dated the 30th of November 2022, in terms of the agenda, we had a briefing by the Minister on the detarable, and we also considered and adopted, I think, 4 sets of minutes in
Honourable
that meeting.
Chair.
Yes, Honourable Smith. Oh, is it Honourable Smith? I'm just hearing the voice.
Yes, it's me. Sorry, my apology, Honourable Chair. Just to ensure that we don't go through this and then we have a technical issue at the end. I just want to be assured that we have a quorum to approve these minutes. So if we can just confirm whether we have a quorum to continue with this. Thank you.
Okay, no, we had a quorum at the beginning of the meeting, Honourable Smith. I think Gershwin confirmed that, yeah.
Honourable Chair, with all due respect, it unfortunately doesn't work like that. When you make a decision, at that moment when you make a decision, you need to have a quorum present. So it is important that we reconfirm that we have a quorum available to do this now. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no, it's not a major train smash, because sometimes we do form a quorum as the meeting also continues. Gershwin, if you can confirm that for me at this point in the meeting.
Yes, Chairperson. We have 9 members present. We have a quorum.
Yeah, okay, no, thank you very much, Gershwin. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Okay, but perhaps also on the meeting of the 10th of, is it the 10th, sorry, 30th of November, in terms of attendance, Honourable Dengo, Honourable Matamai, and Honourable Fissa were not in the meeting, and obviously the Western Cape representative was not there. So members, I want to assume you went through the minutes. I just want to request if there are any additions and or corrections you would like to make to those minutes. And or, yeah. Is there any member that would like to make any corrections? Honourable Radebe, your hand is up.
Yes, Honourable Chairperson, good morning to you and to honourable members. I just wanted to make one correction on the list of attendance, on the list of attendees. My initials, it's N.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. I think that's sorry about that, and I hope it's not in the other minutes, but I'm sure we'll correct that. Thank you very much, Honourable Kadebe. Honourable Bartlett.
Chair, I just want to propose that we accept the minutes as is with the correction of Honourable Kadebe. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bartlett. Is there any seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Matamai. We can then go on to the next set of minutes, which is dated the 7th of December. Okay. Our members, I think in this meeting, yes, we actually had a verbal submission of public hearings on the detarable from three organizations. I think all members were present also in this meeting. Honourable Fissa, obviously, I think was not present, and also the Western Cape representative was also not yet finalized in the NCOP. So once again, all members, this was the presentations we received from three members, if you have any additions and corrections that you would want to make to the minutes, please, can you give me an indication? Okay, Honorable Maleka.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members and the support staff. I want to move for the adoption of the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Maleka. Is there any seconder to that?
I second, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Bartlett.
Chair to us, second chair.
And Honorable Mtetwa. Mtetwa, you have an echo. Yeah, thank you very much, honorable members. We'll then move on to the third set of minutes, which is dated the 8th of December, 2022. Once again, honorable members, we dealt with the departmental responses to the Poctatara bill in that meeting. And I think all members were present in that meeting, except obviously the Western Cape rep. Once again, all members, are there any additions you would like to make to those minutes? And or corrections? Okay, if not, would you want to then move for the adoption of the minutes?
I move,
Honorable
Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Bartlett moves. Any second, Honorable Maleka?
I second, Honorable.
Thank you very much. We then move to the fourth set of minutes, dated the 9th of December, 2022. And in this meeting, honorable members, we deliberated on the Poctatara bill, and I think all members are present as well, except for the Western Cape representative. Once again, our members, do you have any corrections and amendments you would like to make to these minutes? Okay, if not, is there a mover for the adoption of the minutes? Our members?
Yes, Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the agenda, of the minutes, it's Maleka.
Thank you, Honorable Maleka. Any seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you, Honorable Matsamai. Okay, the minutes are okay. Can we then move on to the final set of minutes? I know, honorable members, it gets a bit tedious to adopt minutes, but it's a very important part of our records and the process. The final set of minutes is dated the 12th of December, 2022. And in this meeting, we had 3 agenda items. We considered and adopted the Poctatara bill, as well as the public participation report on the Poctatara bill and the committee report on the Poctatara bill. Once again, in terms of attendance, I think Honorable Fisser was not present, as well as the Western Cape representative. Once again, honorable members, are there any additional amendments that you would like to make to these minutes? And if not, if you're happy with the minutes, is there any mover for the adoption of the minutes?
I move, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bartlett. Your volume is very low, but thank you. Any seconder? Any seconder, honorable members?
I second, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maleka. I think that being said, honorable members, I think we've come to the end of our agenda. Let me once again just thank you for your attendance and participation in this meeting, as well as the officials and the staff that are present. Thank you very much. And that being said, I'm going to declare this meeting closed. Thank you, honourable members.